You guys were talking about that Brooklyn Nine-Nine guy that was the general of the military. Doom screwed him up,
He
didn't
got obliterated.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Captain Holt.
That was a little violent for a PG-13 Marvel movie.
Yeah. It was fine because it didn't show blood. He just was gray and black, so it was fine.
Yeah.
That was fine. It made it okay.
My memories are a lot fonder of these movies, but sometimes, in the rare occasion, I'll go back and watch a movie and see that I had it ranked pretty low and realize, it really wasn't that bad. And that's kind of what happened with this film. I mean, it was bad. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely corny and cheesy and all these things, but it wasn't as bad as what I initially had it rated. First thing that I want to start off with here. We have several comic book purists here in the chat. Why did they think it was okay to make Galactus a cloud? Why did they think that was better? That's my biggest question. Josh, tell me what you think, man, because I know that was driving you crazy in 2007.
I hated that we didn't get to see, and I hated that he was a cloud because I wanted to see Galactus. I have comic books. I have, all kinds of watch cartoons, the Silver Surfer, stuff like that. I wanted to see a Galactus, and I feel like we could have done something, even a shadow. Like we saw nothing but clouds. And that was very frustrating.
It was really cloudy out. Chance of showers.
Yeah. It had to be budgetary. There's no
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, there's no way they thought it was too goofy. There's no way they're like, oh, that design's too goofy. In a movie where they got jokes about flying commercial and Mr. Fantastic is dancing on the dance floor and sending his leg over here and over there and rapping girls. There's no way the same people who made those scenes were like, we're drawing the line at Galactus. That's just too silly. No, those people did not decide that. So it had to be 100% budget.
I think I had watched that when it first came out, but I totally forgot about it. As I was watching it yesterday, I'm like, oh, I kind of remember this. And then at the end, when it came to the cloud, I was like, what? I don't remember that. What? Why?
So you forgot about the cloud.
Yeah, I was like, what? Is he in it? Like, is he going to come out? And then it just ended, and I'm like, okay. And my wife's like, are you good? And I was like, this movie, some things were really good. Like they got it right. And then I'm just like, the cloud? I don't get it. It had to have been like, what do you mean? We spent all that money on Silver Surfer? We don't have any more CGI. We can just kind of make him appear, and Josh Brolin can do the voice. Nothing.
You mentioned Silver Surfer. That's one thing that they got really right. I mean, he looked excellent. It was Norrin Rad. It was the male version of the Silver Surfer.
I guess since I haven't watched this movie since, forever. I've only watched it one time, so I watched it again this morning, actually.
You're welcome, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. So I was like, man, there's so much cheese. But anyway, so watching it, I was like, dang, so his first steps, a reboot of this one, that's what I was trying to figure out. Is that pretty much what they're doing? And then because we watched Elio Friday with my kiddo, the trailer came on again, and I was like, man, thinking back to now when I watched, I was like, man, why does the 2007 Silver Surfer look way better than the 2025 Silver Surfer? How make that make sense to me?
She doesn't look good at all in the early trailers that we've seen.
Effects have been taking a step back. And I mean, I've been rewatching the Jurassic Park movies. The Hulk looked better in the first Avengers movie than he has since. I think the CG, they've been spending money on getting the human involvement out instead of just making it look better. And it doesn't look better. It looks a little bit worse every year.
I agree. I mean, look at Davy Jones in the Pirates of the Caribbean film.
Yeah.
That was so impressive. That's still so impressive the way he looks. What we have now, I mean, we can't even get the Hulk to look good. I mean, granted, it was a show, but She-Hulk, he looked terrible. I want to bring this to everyone's attention. One of the greatest producers in Hollywood, in the history of Hollywood, was involved in this project. If you look at the credits when the film first comes on, you got executive producers Stan Lee and Kevin Feige. If anyone has any doubts about the experience, and someone who got to experience a lot of failures along the way before he single-handedly created the MCU. Kevin Feige. I don't want to say our Lord and Savior, but, in Kevin Feige we trust.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Kevin Feige made this. I mean, we could rest our case right there. You just pointed out that he slapped his name on this film, which, while not scratch your eyes out awful, is nowhere near the pantheon of fantastic.
The experience
wonderful.
level that this man has, though, Dan. I mean, he's unlike anyone else in Hollywood, with the exception of James Gunn. James Gunn might be somewhere along the lines of where Kevin Feige was in 2007 or 2008 right now. You can't top this man's experience. He's been involved with almost every single superhero movie ever made.
If that might, Jonathan, I just went and saw The Last Crusade in theaters on Father's Day because it was shown on Father's Day, which was great. And you know whose name popped up in the credits right as Indy and Sala and Dr. Jones are riding off into the sunset? You know whose name goes across the screen? Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
So Kathleen Kennedy is obviously brilliant because her name appears in all of the Raiders films, and it's right there on the Empire
Kennedy,
Strikes
I'll
Back.
give you this as far, and we're getting off topic, but I'll give you this as far as she goes. She is really good at being a producer. Really good. Go back and look at the films she's been involved with. E.T. I mean, these legendary films. It's a huge list that I can't name all the films right now. But when they tried putting her in as a studio head, it just didn't work. Kevin Feige, I would argue the opposite. I think that as far as him being a producer, he probably wasn't always involved with the best films. But then look at his work that he did as the studio head, as the creative savior of the MCU. There's no denying that he gave us gold from 2008 all the way till 2018.
Hey,
and a few spots here and there.
Hey, and also this movie made a load of money. It was bad, but at the same time, with 2007, I don't know, when did Iron Man come out? 2008. Yeah. So it was just that time where everybody was not, I have an opinion. It was a bad movie, but everybody went and saw it, and it made a heck of a ton of money. And then, Chris Evans went on to get that hit again, and then he got Captain America, and the rest is history, right?
Won the lottery with that one.
And you got to remember, we stayed in and we're excited about seeing those movies. Didn't get near as much in the background as far as what it was about. We just knew it was a Marvel or some kind of movie. And then we actually did something that my kids have never done: stand in line. When you stand in line that long, you put your time in, and you're excited about it. So yeah, I mean that definitely makes the profits go up, because people are waiting and they're anticipating, and it's newer. You get way more stuff now that you get to see ahead of time that makes people decided, do I want to spend my money? Do I want to go to this? So it's different in the time too.
Yeah, I remember at the time I was in a band, and I drugged that whole entire band. It was a band that Wyatt later went on to be in as well. I drugged the whole band to go see this movie in theaters. I was so stoked. I mean, once again, we weren't quite at the level that we're at now as far as our expectations and quality wise, but let's just say that the reviews from the band that I brought to go see this movie were less than stellar. And I was probably the only one that was somewhat happy that, there was some things to like in this film. Going back to the cast, we talked about the cast for our review of the 2005 Fantastic Four. I think they really knocked it out of the park with Ian Grufford, I think is his name, the guy that plays Mr. Fantastic. Chris Evans was a great Johnny Storm, misogynistic or not.
Cringe.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of 2000s cringe, but some people say that he was a, what's the word? How come I can't think of it?
The new guy, calling him a womanizer.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't know. I don't see him as a womanizer personally. He wasn't someone that had ill intent or was just trying to hurt people or just trying to have one-night stands with different females in the film. Sure, he was a playboy, but, are we going backwards now and saying that Tony Stark was a womanizer too?
In today's culture, all sexuality is permitted except for heterosexual male sexuality. That is not okay. It must be shunned and put away because it is inherently wrong. That's just the world we live in now. And that was Johnny Storm, and so he can't be that anymore.
And the actor that's playing the new version, Joseph Quinn, has made comments recently saying that he didn't want his version to be as much of a womanizer. And there's also speculation that he might also be bisexual as well. So that's just a cherry on the top,
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Just wants to have a good time, man.
Yeah, you got to add that in there too.
Jessica Alba, very beautiful woman, but them contacts that she was wearing was rough. I feel like even her hair was kind of rough to me. It just looked straight up like a wig and costume on her. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if in the comic book, if she has that really deep blue kind of eyes and all that, but it just seemed kind of week.
It's been forever. It's probably been '05 since I saw the '05, the original. And I rewatched this one this morning, but I remember at the time liking this one better than the first one, because as much as Galactus as a cloud is awful, but I really hated their version of Doom and how at the end Doom transforms and morphs into it's not a suit he's wearing, he turns into that. And then didn't they beat him by like electrocuting him or something ridiculous?
They kind of gang banged him. They hit him with a lot of different stuff at the end.
Yeah,
Like he melted it together.
Yeah, I did not care for what their take on Doom in the first one. It's such a weird movie that so many things are so wrong, flying commercial and the silliness of it, but there's other things that are just really right. Like the characterization of the Fantastic Four is really good. The actors are giving the performances, they're behaving like the Fantastic Four. Michael Chiklis is Ben is really good, minus the rubber suit. It's just weird that so many things are done so well mixed in with these things that are done so horribly.
Right. I think that his suit looked a little bit worse in this one than the 2005 Fantastic Four. We were talking about that when we reviewed this about a month ago. I didn't think that his look looked terrible in that movie, but this one, there was a noticeable decline. The color looked a little different and a little more fake. It was like a brighter orange. I would say that mostly overall, this film was a downgrade compared to the first or the 2005 Fantastic Four.
I just remember thinking that, and this is, when I watched it back then, and then it just kind of made me remember things. I just remember the Silver Surfer being so cool. Like that was the only thing I remembered and took away from the movie was the Silver Surfer. I thought it was awesome. And also it's Doug Jones, even though he's not the voice, but I love Doug Jones as a, whatever you want to call him as a performance artist. He's a thin man, so he plays everything.
Rewatching it now was kind of tough to take Captain Holt seriously as the if you guys are Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans, watching Captain Holt as the head of the military.
All I could think of, he's like, that's it. You maybe turn around in my chair. Like, that's all I could think of.
On the topic of Silver Surfer, that chase scene with Johnny was really cool. Even by today's standards, I thought it was really well executed. There were some positive things about this movie. I mean, honestly, I'm starting to think more and more that maybe, just maybe, and I'm still not quite there yet, give it some time, but maybe this one might be a little bit better than the 2005 film because of some of the action sequences and the look of the surfer. But then I start thinking about Galactus again, and it just makes it go back down.
It almost felt like the main focus was on Chris Evans. Like it was mainly the, Human Torch and the rest and the other guys. And I don't know if maybe it was a contract reason or whatever. He just, he's the one who makes contact with the Silver Surfer, and he's got all these different powers and all that, which, like I said, I know that might be part of the comic book, but then I'm like, go back to the trailer, First Steps, and I'm just like, dang, okay, so maybe are they kind of ripping it a little bit? I want kind of originality a little bit.
Both films are adapting the same comic story arc. They're both adapting the Galactus trilogy, the first appearance of Galactus, which was a 3-issue run. I think it's like 48 through 50 or 49 through 51. So there's going to be a lot of similarities. They're adapting the same comic book story where the Silver Surfer comes ahead as the Herald of Galactus, looking for planets for Galactus to devour, and is convinced to help the Fantastic Four defend Earth against Galactus. It's the same source material. The variance is how true the source is it going to be and that kind of thing. But there's going to be a lot of similarities there because it's going to be the same overall plot. And then Marvel's made some weird choices. Like the Fantastic Four is so much further along in their career personal lives than they were in the comics or in this film, because instead of getting married, she's pregnant and about to have their first kid, which that didn't happen in the comic until the 90s.
Different elements, and that's probably why they chose to go with a female version of Silver Surfer, Shala Ball, as opposed to Norrin Radd.
Who owns Marvel Studios? It's not a story reason why they decided to go with the female Silver Surfer. There's not an in-universe reason that makes sense.
To play devil's advocate, maybe they didn't want it to be so closely compared to Rise of the Silver Surfer because, like you're saying, maybe it is the exact same story, at least starting point.
I can hear the sweaties. They don't come up with any original ideas anymore. They could have used this and this in the comic book. Like I said, I literally was just like, man, so they're just remaking this movie because just from watching the Rise of Silver Surfer again and just watching the trailer recently. I was like, man, it's pretty similar, but I know that there could be a lot more too. I mean, Galactus could be just like a small snippet or something, or later, you know, because with these movies, like with nowadays, there's never just a one and done, right? Are they going to be involved with Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom?
I would definitely say that that's probably a high possibility, even though we don't know. My theory, I think that you know, they're obviously in a different world. We do know that they're in a different multiverse. And my theory is that Galactus is going to devour their world. And before he does, Fantastic Four is going to find a way to transport to the 616 multiverse. But who knows what could actually happen. But that's what I think is going to happen. I think he's actually going to destroy their world. Like, it's going to be a Thanos type ending.
But I think with the whole multiverse thing, it's such a cop-out now. You can make whatever kind of movie you want and be like, oh, well, this is not part of this. I think it kind of just takes away now. You're just, because like me, I don't go to the movies anymore. I just wait for it to come on TV, you know, because I already paid for the service, so why not? Very rare do I go and see a movie now, just for the sake of I have a 4-year-old and he can't be quiet.
A lot of people don't like the multiverse concept. I think that one of the nerd champs, Tim, really hates the multiverse.
You see him break out in hives. You ask him about multiverses in general. He just.
I don't know if any, because I'm a little older, but it remembers, like, I can't even remember which show it was, but the cop out was the dream. Oh, this whole storyline that was the dream.
Who shot Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas. Yes. There you go. Today's, you know, the multiverse is like that. You can skew in a different direction and blame it on the multiverse.
Yeah,
it's definitely convenient. I don't mind it because I really appreciate seeing the wild stuff like Hugh Jackman come back and Toby and Andrew popping up together with Tom Holland. I don't mind it, but as long as they end it soon, which I think they are. After Secret Wars, I think all of it's going to get sent back to a one world, one multiverse, and that's it. And that's why I'm okay with it. Now, if they try to continue on after Secret Wars with more multiverse nonsense, then I'll feel the same way. But as long as they wrap it up in a couple years, whatever.
Clean slate.
They're not sustainable. Multiversal stories are like a conclusion. You do it at the end for a little while. You can't just live in it and sit in it unless it's a satire like Rick and Morty works. You don't need dramatic stakes in Rick and Morty. It's comedy anyway. So then it works, but you can't just be all multiverse all the time because, you know, you kill your hero and then, okay, here's another version.
You know? Rick and Morty did a great job of not giving any explanation to anything. You just accepted it. Like the very first beginning of the episode, they're in some wild situation, and typically in most stuff you get kind of a Quentin Tarantino approach where he'll go back and forth. But with Rick and Morty, man, you don't know anything is going on. They don't explain anything. It's just coming out of this dude's head. You just sit and watch it and enjoy it.
Of course, Jessica Alba ends up naked in this film again, although we don't really get to see anything. I mean, you know, I think that that's kind of interesting. On our first review, we talked about, you know, the 2005 version of Fantastic Four. It was actually this version of the film this sequel, that director Tim Story asked Jessica Alba to cry prettier. I wanted to talk about that for just a little bit. There's two different sides to that argument. You know, one is like, oh my God, I can't believe how sexist this man is. And he must be a misogynistic a-hole, right? For saying this to Jessica Alba. But on the other hand, I'm like, you know, Jessica Alba probably wasn't cast because of her acting chops in this movie, you know?
I'm shocked Jessica Alba was able to cry at all.
I don't know. That's just weird that the cry prettier thing kind of threw me off. I don't know what to think of that. That's just weird.
I can understand why she would be offended by that for sure. That's an odd thing to tell one of your actresses, right? And it definitely wouldn't fly today in 2025. But once again, like I said, I don't think that she was cast because of her tremendous acting abilities.
No, I'd agree.
Listening to her, like her acting the whole time, I was just like, yeah, I don't want to be one of those. But I was like, yeah, you're just supposed to be there and be pretty, not say a whole lot. And I hate that. I've definitely felt it in this one.
She was like the female version of Paul Walker. Rest in peace, Paul Walker. I appreciate everything you did for the world of Hollywood, but you were not a good actor. You know, same thing with Jessica Alba. You know, it's just one of those people that were there to pretty up the cast, right?
What's the lady's name that's playing the Invisible Woman now?
Vanessa Kirby.
Okay, so Vanessa Kirby in one of her interviews was saying she's going to be a more liberated, more today Invisible Woman, and she's not going to be the 60s house mom and whatever. That honestly, watching this movie, because I'm like, what is she talking about? Because I'm a comic fan, and that's not who the Invisible Woman ever has been.
Right.
But that's exactly who the Invisible Woman is in this movie. She's just whining the whole movie like, we can't save the universe. We're planning my wedding. What are you doing? You know, I mean, dang you, Reed. How dare you track these things that can, you know, end all reality? You have to pick flowers for the wedding.
Right.
And we need to retire, and you need to get a teaching job so we can raise babies. And we have these amazing powers, but we have to stop using those to save the planet, even though we're the only superheroes that exist in this reality. We need to just go off and retire.
She's just really hot for him right now. That's all.
Yeah. So, this must be the version of Invisible Woman that Vanessa Kirby thinks that she needs to improve upon. The domesticated housefrau that she feels like, oh, we can't do that anymore. Because honestly, I was looking at her in this movie like, was this movie made in 1952? I mean, why?
And I'm sure that Kate Mara in 2015's Fan Forced It wasn't much better.
Probably not.
I did not even watch that movie because I heard it was so bad. I was
Everything
like,
you read about it is true.
You
As
know
bad
what?
as this one and the 2005 Fantastic Four are, 2015's Fan Forced It is that much worse. I mean, it's
yikes.
I found out about the casting for the 2015 Fantastic Four, and I found out that Sue was white and Johnny was black. And then I was like, okay, which one's adopted? And they're like, neither one. And then my head hurt, and I was like, I can't watch this movie. It just automatically makes no sense. This is their brother. They're still.
I thought they were adopted by Johnny's dad in that movie, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
I couldn't make any of it make sense. Just like I didn't actually watch it because trying to figure out how that makes any sense just hurt my head. And I was like, nope, not going to watch that movie. They obviously.
Johnny's dad was also black, but it's been a while since I've seen that movie, so I need to go back and check it out.
Like, if you're going to go diversity, if you want Johnny to be black, fine. But Sue
Right.
also should be black. Just go full 50%. And then you got orange represented as well.
The multiverse was the excuse. In another multiverse where you could have two different colors and they're in the same family, yes.
Yeah. In that continuity, it's totally possible.
Yeah, I thought the conflicts of Sue and Reed leaving and Johnny's power issues were interesting elements, but, you know, like you guys alluded to earlier, it was kind of a Johnny Storm-centric film.
And it's not a Chris Evans movie without him having a shirt off.
That's true, yeah. Don't
Yep.
forget, we're just as misogynistic as we are sexist because we got to have Johnny in every Marvel movie, not just Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four, but even if we're talking Shang-Chi, even if we're talking Spider-Man, even if we're talking Thor, we're going to see our male lead with their shirt off. You can bet your bottom dollar.
Did anybody else find themselves comparing him to Captain America? Like just the whole acting and the
Different.
It's
Chris Evans.
different, yeah, seeing him now because then and then watching Deadpool and Wolverine with him, like I was like, man, he kind of went right back to Johnny Storm. Like it's so strange how the acting is still the same person, but he still kind of did it differently.
Victor came back into the fold. Like I thought he was the actor. He didn't really impress me in the first Fantastic Four, and he didn't really impress me that much in this one either. He didn't really blow my socks off. It's kind of odd that they kept the Fantastic Four locked up like criminals. Meanwhile, while they let Victor Von Doom just roam around the hallways wearing his ominous hoodie, you know, like this guy, we don't have to worry about this guy. But, you know, the Fantastic Four, we better lock those guys up tight. We don't want them getting out. I just thought that was a very convenient and dumb choice.
With Doom, like the actor, honestly, I felt he was kind of one of the weaker actors.
Yes.
Man, he was touching that ring the whole time. You know, it was like a tick for him. He was just, you know, that's all, you know, he's just rolling around his ring the whole time. I was like, is this in the comic book? Like, you know, does he touch a ring a lot? I was just watching him. He was probably the one I was just like, man, he honestly didn't even need to be in the movie. And then he gets knocked into the river or something. And it's like, all right, well, he did. I don't know.
For comparison, nowadays you got Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio is so great as Kingpin that they can't do a single season without Kingpin being in it. Like Kingpin is always there. Their take on Doom was one of the lowlights of that 2005 movie. There was no need for him to show up again. You got Silver Surfer, you got Galactus. that wasn't even a trope at the time in superhero films to bring the villain back in the sequel and have him be there again. Usually the villain died and you never saw him again in any, no matter how many sequels there were, except maybe the Reeve Supermans. You did have Gene Hackman coming back, but that's Gene Hackman. You know, this dude is not Gene Hackman. And speaking of Gene Hackman, I feel like the producers, speaking of producers, of these Fantastic Four movies really don't know the difference between Doctor Doom and Lex Luthor. The Ring, he's not like variant. He doesn't even feel foreign at all. He feels very Lex Luthor to me. He doesn't feel like Doom.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you could have easily shaved his head and been like, "Yep, that'll work."
I
I
know
don't.
his kryptonite ring, because Luthor was upset. He had a ring of kryptonite for a lot of runs that he was obsessed with.
My main focus just watch. I was like, man, why does he keep touching his ring? Like that's like the whole time I saw him, I was just, you know, the worst part of Spider-Man 3 was that they had too much going on, too many villains, too many things. You could have broke that down to just Harry and Sandman, whoever you or Venom, you know, and it could have been done. When you have too much stuff being added, you're just like, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, that's a part of it, but it was also a terrible movie. While we're on the subject of Doom, real quick before we move on to something else, you guys were talking about that Brooklyn Nine-Nine guy that was the general of the military.
Yeah,
Doom screwed him up. Did he
got obliterated.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Poor Captain Holt.
That was a little violent for a PG-13 Marvel movie.
It was fine because it didn't show blood. He just was gray and black, so it was fine.
Yeah,
that was fine. It made it okay.
What did you guys think about the Dodge Fantastic Four mobile? It does have a Hemi. We found out that it did have a Hemi.
They were definitely going with that advertisement and having their, because like with Johnny Storm with his suit, I was like, man, he looks like he's ready to go on a NASCAR ride. All I could think of was Mystery Men way back when he had like the Pepsi, you know, like all that stuff.
I bet that's where the budget went for Galactus.
Yeah.
Dodge.
Right there.
That Dodge was fancy.
The idea that a Fantastic car would need an internal combustion engine, you know, that's just so weird. Our hovering plane thing has Emmys in it.
It can keep up with the Silver Surfer Doom at the same time.
Johnny, at the end of the movie, became a Super Skrull, and it was the way that God intended it. Not the way that it went down in Secret Invasion. In Secret Invasion, they went too crazy with it, Dan. They gave her Drax's arm. If she wanted to have Drax's arm, she had Mantis's antennas. Yeah. You know, basically every power known to man. Johnny just had 4 different powers.
That's what the Super Skrull is supposed to have. The Ford. Not every power you've seen and haven't seen, and all of a sudden you're the master of the mystical arts, like Doctor Strange and everything, just because of some DNA that somebody scraped off a rock.
I was kind of shocked to see that in some way this film was a little bit of a trendsetter. It had a post-credit sequence. I never even knew after, what's it been, 15, 20 years, that this film had a post-credit scene. But did you guys watch it on Disney Plus where you can skip the credits?
But it wasn't, you know, it was just a Silver Surfer opening his eyes. And I was like, oh man, they did have that back then, you know?
You know, that was a year before the MCU started. So
I even made sure to go all the way to the end because I was like, okay, well, we know when there's a mid-credit scene, there's definitely one at the end, you know? And then when I scrolled back all the way, I was like, nah, all I'm seeing is different languages now. It's fine. It's over.
This movie, you know, I went back to my rankings in my phone, and I was shocked to see that I had this movie listed as a 2 before I watched it. And after I watched it, I just kept thinking to myself, there's no way that this film is a 2. So I did give it a little small bump from a 2 to a 2.5. And it may even go up to a 3 one day. I mean, in my ranking list right here in the 2s, we have movies like Batman Forever, New Mutants, Birds of Prey with Harley Quinn. I was like, this movie's not that bad. I bumped it up to a 2.5. I think that that's a pretty decent spot for it right now. It's right underneath X-Men Origins Wolverine. We'll see what happens in a year, but right now I have it ranked at a 2.5. What'd you think, Josh?
I think I've told you before, I'm kind of a little bit easier with movies. I think I kind of get lost in the stories, but I got frustrated by some things and I kept comparing. And that was back too when I started a little storyline, even though movies change things different, you know, not following 100% on certain areas, but I might do a 3 since I'm a little bit more, just bump it up just a little bit. We enjoyed watching it with my kids. That was nice, but it still wasn't my top movies that I would be like, oh, you know, nostalgia from that would be way more up there. But so, yeah, I give it a 3.
And just ask Dan, for once, I might be being a little too harsh on a movie.
Yeah, I think so. Usually Usually you're just rainbows and sunshine. This movie's passable. It's background entertainment, and you just don't question it or examine it too hard. And you can enjoy the high points. There are some parts that you're like, really? But even the parts that are bad are kind of camp in a way that are fun bad, not frustrating bad, just kind of like scratch your head like, okay, I wish I was in the meeting for that. Kind of like curious bad, like, the dance scene. I would give it like a 5. It's passable entertainment. It's still a failing grade, but you tried.
I would probably also give it a 5 based on the fact that I think the cast was pretty spot on. Johnny, aside from his cringiness, I mean, he did really look like Johnny Storm. Chris Evans looked like Johnny Storm. Reed's going to look a lot better in this film versus the new one. I like Pedro. I like him as an actor. He's not Reed for me. Right. Honestly, if I was able to pick, I would have went with John
Krasinski.
Yeah, I would have went with him. He just looks like Reed. I think if he would have maybe
that's only half the battle, though.
Yeah, I mean, who else would you choose? Anybody that comes to mind to fill that spot? But aside from like the Silver Surfer was great, but the Cloud, I think that loses just 5 points in general. Out of 10. So that's why I'm going to stick with the 5.
I guess I'll go. I'll give it a 4.5. I'll just go in that middle ground, just because. Will I watch it in another 20 years or whatever? Less than 20 years, probably not. Because I had only seen it the one time. It was still enjoyable. I didn't have a problem with it. I was just like, man, this is corny, but I mean, the Silver Surfer was still great. I think the reason for the 4.5 is because it was using a callback for Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine too. It was fun.
I don't have to say I actually had 5 in mind, but then when you went 2, I was like, oh dang, or 2.5. I'm thinking way too high. I wouldn't have definitely given it, higher than that. But I was just like, oh wow. So let me say 3.
Yeah, usually especially when I first see a comic book movie in the theaters, I'm going to be a lot more high on those movies. I gave Eternals I hate to say it, I gave Eternals an 8 when it first came out. In retrospect now, and when I went back to watch it again, I was like, man, this movie's really slow and it's really not as good as I remember it being. So I'm notorious for that.
Kudos to this movie. It's an hour and a half long.
Yes.
It's 92 minutes or 93 minutes. Marvel has talk about Eternals being slow. All of Marvel's movies post Endgame and even in are a little bit slow because I feel like it's a mandate that they have to be 3 hours long. I don't know why.
2.5. They all are 2.5 hours, and that's a big commitment. The older you get, the less excited you are about watching a 2.5 or a 3 hour long movie.
And you end up watching scenes and you're thinking, man, they could have trimmed like a whole minute out of here and got the same point across. You start watching it that way, like, man, why am I watching this guy walk down this hallway for exactly this long? He could have, let's get to the door, man. This could have definitely been 2 hours instead of 2.5 hours.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Comic Book Cinema. Make sure you check out Bradman Cosplay on Instagram and tell us about your socials, Brad.
Basically just Instagram. That's the only one I really use. I have TikTok, but it's still bradman.cosplay, whether you're on Instagram or TikTok. Yeah, I've got tons of cosplays. Newest one is Ghost from Call of Duty. I do Darth Maul, Batman, Bane. I did Black Mask for a little bit, Hush. Yeah, there's tons. Wolverine. So probably too many. My wife's like, you need to chill a little bit, but it's fun.
Yeah, and he has a really awesome Batman cosplay. Ben Affleck Batman. I love the cosplay that you do for Ben Affleck's Batman.
Thank you.
OG Wyatt, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nah, I'm just a lurker.
Just lurking. Okay, Josh, you have anything you want to plug today? Nope. No, okay, also a lurker. Yeah. I know that Dan does. Dan's got a YouTube channel. It's called The Nerd Champs. Really awesome. You should definitely check it out. They have nerd debates. They have discussion. They talk about comic book movies, but a lot of other different stuff too. Tell us a little bit about it, Dan.
Yeah, we do sci-fi, fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever. If nerd applies to it, we're covering it. That's what we are. And right now we're launching a whole series of movie reviews. We're going to have all of the Jurassic Parks leading up to this new Jurassic Park movie. So watch the channel for those. They should be dropping soon.
And you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Real Comic Book Cinema. If you want to listen to us in podcast format, you can find us on Amazon Music, iTunes, Spotify, just to name a few. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.